All right, we got a good one for you folks. This is the Unpopular Opinion Show. I'm your host. In this video, we got a smug liberal from Politico. She thinks she's going to set this Republican straight, but she ends up getting the facts check put on her. Without further ado, let's get right into the video.
Push to get manufacturers to install that Obama switch, the almost universally despised start-stop feature. There will be no more climate participation trophies awarded to manufacturers for making Americans' cars die at every red light and stop sign. It's over, done, finished.
You believe that the talk of climate change is a hoax?
When you're putting forth tens of billions of dollars to pay off your well-connected former Obama and Biden admin officials and Democratic donors, wasting taxpayer dollars, yeah, that's a problem. Trillions of dollars of regulation and costs on American families, that's a big problem. It has been a con job of using this for more power and control. For example, they push environmental justice. They appropriate $1, and rather than remediating an environmental issue with it, they want to spend $1 on an activist group to train other activists to come be activists and advocate in D.C. to get more money so that they could advocate. You try to wrap your head around the way the money's wasted.
These waters run deep. That's what I take from all this. Sir, thank you.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the...
Shout out to the black conservative. That's the guy right there. That's who I'm piggybacking this reaction off of. He has great content. Check him out, his channel. This is all about the green. Trump calls it the green scam, green new scam, because it's a way that they get governments around the world to steal taxpayer money to fund what they say is saving the planet, and then the money obviously is kicked back to these NGOs that pop up out of nowhere, so they could say that it went to a just cause to save the planet. And we know where the bulk of that money is really going. And so that's what it is. They have a whole network in place. And every year they push the same losing agenda. Is the Democrat agenda. It's not like the American people agenda or anybody's agenda but Democrats. And it's actually not just here in the United States. It's a global Democrat, a global left agenda. They're all in it together to rip off and steal and swindle millions of dollars from governments around the world. I don't think there's one player at the top, but I think they're funded and they're pushed to get the money. We'll let him tell you more about it.
Reaction to the Trump administration taking a sledgehammer to the green new scam. Yes, the Obama era EPA climate regulations. The Trump administration has basically gotten rid of them, right? He's basically saying, listen, we're not going to have the EPA regulate climate at the federal level. Okay, this is a congressional issue. This is something that Congress needs to solve, or states can regulate the way that they want when it comes to the issue of climate change, right? And that has pissed off the left. They're now online, boohoo, whining, crying, claiming that the world's going to end, that Trump is trying to endanger everybody and to make people sick.
Wait, do y'all remember when AOC got up there and said, I think it was in 2022 or 2002, she said the world was going to end in like 10 years. The world is going to end in 10 years. There's no amount of money you could put toward solving the cause. It's already done with. Us humans, me and you are going to be long gone off the face of this earth. Long, well before this earth stops spinning. That's just a fact.
When the science isn't as settled as these people would like you to believe, specifically when it comes to CO2 and whether or not it is actually really as harmful as they claim to human health.
Running breaks your joints. Tai Chi builds them back. After 50, you need that. In 1 week, you'll...
If you're looking to test someone's IQ and brain activity, ask them if they support Trump's recent announcement that the EPA is rescinding their landmark determination known as the...
You see how the liberals get smug? They throw an insult in there. If you want to test someone's IQ and brain smarts, that is to say, if you disagree with climate change, you must have the brain of an ant. You know, these people are political hustlers. You can't take them seriously.
endangerment finding. That finding, issued by the EPA themselves in 2009, stated that greenhouse gases like methane and carbon dioxide are causing global warming or climate change, and that endangers the health and well-being of everyone currently and for future generations. And under the Clean Air Act, that finding acted as a linchpin for rules to set emission standards for cars and trucks and required fossil fuel companies to report their emissions.
I need people to understand what's happening right now because this is one of those government decisions that seems boring but could actually change everything. The Trump administration's EPA has officially said that they're going to stop.
Am I the only one getting tired of liberals trying to tell everyone what's going on? You know, like we're the ones who don't know what's going on in the world, right? I mean, the white liberal woman has to be the most clueless of them all.
Acting on climate change, even though the pollution causing it is dangerous to human health. That's not political, that is simply a scientific fact.
They repealed the EPA's endangerment finding. That's the rule that said pollution endangers human life.
Okay, so the endangerment finding, that's the rule that says pollution endangers human life. That is such a vague statement. The endangerment finding ruled that CO2 endangered human life, which is a huge government overreach because CO2 is not a pollutant in the way that lead or sulfur dioxide and all these other pollutants are. It doesn't have an immediate negative impact on human health. Case in point, I am exhaling CO2 right now at 40,000 parts per million when I exhale. In our atmosphere, it is a trace gas that is only 420 parts per million. So this idea that CO2 is a pollutant that endangers human life is on shoddy science. Let's continue.
And they did all of this after receiving hundreds of millions from fossil fuel executives who wanted fewer rules. They privatized the profits, we socialized the damage. They get richer, we get sicker.
Okay, this black and white narrative that the evil fossil fuel industry is paying off the government to make this decision is ridiculous. This is a common sense decision because regulating CO2 has been a huge drain economically because it's led to all these pointless regulations that have not made us safer, but they've made everything more expensive. And again, what she said,
Thanks.
We get richer and they get richer, we socialize the problems. Know what makes us richer? Fossil fuels, you guys. I hate to break it to you, but fossil fuels is a thing that's made us so prosperous and rich in the past 100 years. And this idea that fossil fuel executives are just hoarding all their money when really they're just providing a service for us that we really want, which is fossil fuels, oil, coal, natural gas, which power 80% of our energy system. The idea that fossil fuels don't also make us rich is ridiculous.
Yeah. So leftists have convinced themselves that everybody's going to get sick, that Trump is killing people, that this is going to lead to climate change that will end the world, right?
See, what it is they're in bed with, if you want to say Republicans are in bed with fossil fuels, that's fair to say. But let's weigh that against Democrats are in bed with all the EV companies and mandates. I mean, they literally said that you cannot force all the cars to be EV. There's no way to have them all on the road driving and waiting those long times for truck drivers to have to wait to charge and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But they just chose to get in bed with them. It's okay to admit if you're a Republican who you're in bed with, as long as the sex is good. But Democrats don't really care about the policy. They just have to pretend like they're concerned about something. So they just pick something to be against the Republicans. They're political hustlers. I'll keep saying that to the end. They're political hustlers, and they just need to push that you're racist and you're rich, and that therefore you're out of touch with the common folk. So they gotta build these traps and these companies and tie them into that narrative. That's what it's all about. Political hustling.
Even though, again, China's still polluting, right? And as long as China keeps polluting, there's really not that much that can be done about it. But anyways, again, they are convinced that this is terrible, right? This is so bad, right? Even though, me personally, I just think it just means we need to plant more trees, right? We need to plant more trees. Right? I don't think anybody disagrees with, hey, let's plant more trees, right? Let's plant more trees, but also at the same time, let's not give up fossil fuels, right? Let's continue to embrace fossil fuels, because as that young lady laid out there, fossil fuels have led to prosperity all across the world, right? Especially in developed nations like the United States of America. Yeah, fossil fuels are the reason why we're rich, right? It's the reason why we have the standard of living that we do have. And the countries that move away from fossil fuels, they tend to have to kind of move back towards them, because the renewable technology, the renewable energy stuff is just not there yet, right? Ask the Europeans, okay? Anytime they have a heat wave or an extreme heat wave or an extreme cold front, if they wish they were more dependent on fossil fuels, right? So with that being said, we got to react to Lee Zeldin, the administrator of the EPA, who is leading this initiative, set this woke reporter straight.
I remember that cold front they had, I think it was 2 years ago. Either 2 years ago or the beginning of the winter of 2025 or 24. Massive cold front and millions of cars just stranded. Their computers fried. Like those EVs, they could not work. I mean, and this is what they want to push on everybody. Hey, they give me a $15,000 four-door EV, I'll start buying one, But it's got to make it across county lines first.
Is going to confront her about their latest action. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Mr. Zeldin, with all due respect,
Sure.
Isn't it a little bit cute for the administration to now be saying we want to leave the power with Congress, when there have been so many examples of this administration pushing the boundaries?
Look, Democrats are always projecting. The minute they talk, they throw isn't it a little bit cute? Just know she's being a little bit cute.
Of
So you don't-
executive
so
power
you-
and court power and the law in general.
So I shouldn't follow the law.
I'm saying that there are many examples of this administration in gray areas of the law.
But you're asking about the endangerment finding, and I'm sitting here as the EPA administrator, and I'm happy to answer any question that you have. I committed when I was going through the confirmation process that I'm going to follow the law. And there's no way that I'm going to sit here and have any apology or regret for applying the best reading of a law and reading a Supreme Court decision that makes it clear that if you're going to regulate the heck out of greenhouse gas emissions with trillions of dollars of regulatory costs on Americans, that's something that Congress should have a debate and a vote on. And every time you see any member of Congress who wants to grandstand and complain and cry about the decision, the announcement that we made 2 days ago, well, why don't you do your damn job? You're a senator, you're a congressman, try to amend the Clean Air Act.
Facts, right? Ultimately, the Trump administration, there's nothing hypocritical about this, right? This reporter is trying to make it seem like, oh, you guys have been pushing the boundaries of executive authority and power, and all of a sudden you don't want it anymore. Yeah, that's a part of executive power and authority, right? which is choosing to not enforce certain things, right? He's saying, listen, we're choosing not to enforce this, right, as they have the right to do. We're not going to enforce it. And he is basically citing law, right, as the reason why they're not going to enforce it, because it is up to Congress, right, to make laws, right, if they want this to be enforced, right? This is not up to the executive branch to essentially legislate via these agencies that were not constitutionally empowered to do the lawmaking, right, and the rulemaking that they're making, right? This is not something that they have the authority to do. And if Congress really wants to tackle this issue, then, hey, they should pass a law, right? They should amend the Clean Air Act and to include the type of rules and regulations that they want the EPA to carry out, right? So basically, what you have here is the administration saying, hey, we're giving the authority to Congress, right? We're giving the authority to the states. It's on the states to regulate how they want to regulate. And we're going to step out of it, right? We're not going to engage as much when it comes to this issue of regulating on climate change, right? Now, the funny part about the mainstream liberal media, this woman, is that, you know, she's accusing the Trump administration of hypocrisy, but the real hypocrisy comes from this reporter in the mainstream liberal media has been boo-hoo-whining and crying about executive overreach, right, and Trump being a dictator. And when, you know, the administration decides that, hey, we're not going to be a dictator on climate change, then they're boo-hoo-whining and crying, oh, why is it that you don't want to be a dictator on climate change, right? It really tells you everything you need to know about what these people actually care about, right? They don't care about executive overreach. What they care about is whether or not the executive is doing what they want the executive to do, right? When the executive is, for example, downsizing the government, they're boo-hoo-whining and crying. Executive overreach, okay? Even though, again, we're talking about making the executive branch smaller, right? Again, executive overreach. But when you talk about saying, hey, we're not going to regulate on climate change at the federal level, now all of a sudden they're concerned that the executive is not overreaching, right? So it's just funny.
They don't want to use their local dollars on the scam. It's easier to hide when the big appropriations bills get passed and each state gets billions and billions for 5, 6 to 10 different buckets. And climate change is just one bucket that they're collecting money laundering from, which they claim that's going to NGOs that they set in place to get the money boomerang right back to them. So they can't really pull that scam off if they're not getting federal dollars to do it. Because when those federal dollars get dispersed, it's not like, here you go, California. Everybody, let's laser eye in on California, what they're going to do with this money. It's like they passed this big bill, and then the money goes to all 50 states. And there's a lot of pork in it for each state, you know. Both sides, Republican, Democrat, but so that's how that money gets brought in, and that's why it's important for the Green New scam to keep getting funded by the federal government. That's why they're complaining about it being eliminated, because it affects their ability to have money to campaign and to stay in power, among other things.
How that works.
Ask them, where in Section 202 of the Clean Air Act does it say anything about global climate change? Why don't you ask them why, and when they did this in 2009, did they not study each of these individual well-mixed gases individually? Ask them, why did they use well-mixed gases that aren't even emitted from vehicles, even though it was an endangerment finding on mobile sources? Ask them, why didn't you include water vapor if you're going to go there? Why didn't you look at local and regional impacts, which is what the EPA and Clean Air Act had been applied for 50 years? My job is to follow the law. And I will very proudly defend a decision that is based on what is, in fact, indisputably the best reading of the law. And guess what? Here's the best part. If Congress wants to change the law, they want to change Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and they want to tell me that I'm supposed to regulate the heck out of greenhouse gases, guess what? Then we'll do it. But that's not what happened. So in 2009, President Obama and his allies in Congress, they tried to put together the votes to amend the Clean Air Act. They weren't able to get the votes, and they said, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. President Trump was sworn into office January of 2025. On day one, he had me he signed an executive order giving me 30 days to complete the research, the vetting, provide a recommendation as it relates to the endangerment finding. I read the Supreme Court precedent. I read Section 202 of the Clean Air Act with our team, and there's only one best reading of the Clean Air Act. And in so many different ways, the many mental leaps that were done in the 2009 endangerment finding violated that.
Yeah, guys, I got to tell you, right? I got to tell you, I absolutely love it when this amendment.
Yeah, man, I love it too. I love it too. You know, Trump come in, he said, "You're a bulldog, well, I'm a bulldozer." He just come to put bull to bullshit, you know. He come to put a hammer to all these cream puffs and their ideas and just, you know, it's funny because they don't really have no sensible ideas where you could say, okay, you know, that's a good idea. Let's keep that. Let's not get rid of everything. They literally are lining their pockets up behind every idea they put in place. I mean, it's a good cop, bad cop, cops and robbers situation with the Republicans and Democrats. And I used to argue, oh, there's bad people and scammers on both sides. But not no more. I can live with the few on the Republican side because they're the party of reason and logic. And they are the party with some common sense who is really, you know, seek truthers. They're seeking the truth at best and trying to implement that what's best for the country. And of course, they might make some money out of doing. Look, don't think you can't make side deals and hustle by doing the right thing, because you can. There's ways to make money. That's what I don't get, because there's ways to make money all around. But the Democrats, they choose the easy way, because if a plan fails, it never was really a policy they was going to put any effort or work, you know, virtual signaling. You know, they virtual signal. That's their work they put in. So they don't really plan to put in any work in anything. Just be opposed and virtual signal. Remember, these are the rich bastards, you know. We plan to tax the rich, and we're going to give it all back to the people, you know. That's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to leave a comment in the comment section below.